How are you feeling finally getting the tweet out? Mostly good. I mean, I'm excited, nervous, a million different feelings I have about the trip. But we have some stuff to talk about. Because there's two groups of people who are not happy about my trip. Okay? Two groups of people. And I want to talk about both of them. And it's kind of hard to really like break down a lot of this stuff, because a lot of this stuff is just silly, right? It's just silly, man. Okay, so there's two groups of people who are very not happy about me traveling to Poland. And for those of you who don't know, I'm gonna be traveling to Poland with the purpose of interviewing Ukrainian refugees. That's the hook. That's the short of it. There's some other things I want to do. I want to go to Hungary to talk about the Hungarian elections with Hungarians. I want to go to Moldova, so maybe I can interview East Ukrainian refugees so we can get a different perspective from a different region of the country. And this is the general idea of what I'm doing. I might do a few IRL streams in Warsaw just to, see the city. Never been out of the country last time since I was 11. And that was going to the Canadian side of Niagara Falls. There's some other things I might do, but a lot of it is unconfirmed, and I want to not like hype people up too much. People have asked if I'm going into Ukraine, and the short answer is I can't really answer that question unless I have like stuff finalized. Really, like I would like to, and if I did, it would only be Lviv, and the purpose of that would be, again, only if, number one, it was extremely safe, and number two, we had somebody who could properly escort us through the area. We do have a fixer for Lviv, and we're trying to set it up, but safety is the top priority. I'm not a conflict journalist. I don't even like calling myself a reporter or a journalist in any manner. I'm a Twitch streamer who engages in like local politics, who has a interest in foreign policy. I'm not a journalist, so I am not going to be going to the front and getting blown up by something, okay? And so again, safety is the top priority. Thankfully, Lviv is in the far west of the country, close to the Polish border. If something was to kick off, hopefully, if we have everything properly set up, I'd be able to get out. But again, that's all like maybe, could possibly, who knows, happen. Hobson, thank you so much for the raid of 139 people. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the channel, everybody. And so, yes, the goal of my trip to Poland is going to be to highlight people who have a story to tell. Something that angers me a lot is the lack of coverage on refugees in war. This is something that's happened a lot historically, and this is something that happens a lot today. Whether it's the Syrian civil war, that was the thing that I watched growing up, was the lack of coverage on Syrian refugees and interviews with them. Or if you look up interviews with Ukrainian refugees, let's look at this. Ukraine refugee interview. Right? 3 minutes. The longest one's 11 minutes. 6 minutes. This is multiple, 14, kind of longer. 4 minutes. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 6 minutes. That's not a refugee. That's President Zelensky. 4 minutes. That's a Daily Show Trevor Noah segment. 5 minutes. That's a sniper from Canada. That's a Russian soldier. That's a 3-minute interview from TMZ. And you want to know why it doesn't get like a ton of attention? Look at the comparison between the Zelensky interview, 170,000 views, and TMZ, this one, 24,000. 10,000 if it's an interview with the Ukrainian. It's all like 28,000 right here, right? This one, which is 14 minutes and multiple people, does pretty better, 691,000. So what I'm trying to get at is, when it comes to these conflicts, refugees are never really given the limelight, never really given attention, and that angers me. I don't believe they're the only ones that need to get attention. Soldiers do, politicians of course do, but I think the people who are most affected by war, the ones displaced by it, who have lost their homes, have lost family members, lost everything. Over 4 million have fled the country, right? And that's not even counting for, because when people talk about refugees, they just talk about the people who leave the country. People never talk about the internally displaced people. That never even gets any sort of a highlight. And that's what I want to highlight when we're in Lviv, if we can get into Lviv, again, pending. And so that angers me. And I don't want 2-minute, 3-minute, 6-minute interviews. What I want, we can get actually, you know, I'm kind of going on a tangent. I can bring this up later, right? But basically, you get the idea of what I want to do. If I can interview other people, like a soldier or two, that'd be cool. But my goal is not to go to the front lines. I am not going to get shot. I'm not going to get blown up. I would really like to not have those things happen to me, because I like to be alive and not dead. What do traumatized refugees gain from being interviewed by some privileged streamer? That's what we're going to talk about, because a lot of people are angry because of that, and they're not happy with me. So we're going to talk about that, because I want to make clear exactly what I'm doing, and I feel like a lot of people are specifically trying to misinterpret what I'm doing to spite me, right? So the first thing I want to cover is these people who are angry about what I'm doing. And these people are literally insane. And I don't say that lightly. These people are literally insane. Okay, the first group, the second group I wouldn't say is insane, but these people are actually insane. These are people who are alleging that I am working for the federal government, whether it be the CIA, getting funding from the National Endowment for Democracy, or something, right? They're alleging that. Let's go through this. I am once again asking, I blocked this guy because he was like making weird comments. I forget exactly what. I block people a lot easier now. It keeps my mind at peace. Actually, a lot of the reason why I'm blocking people more is I don't want to like post an interview with a refugee and have some people commenting some weird stuff. I'm gonna be honest. Those are the videos that I'm gonna be a lot quicker to remove comments, right? I am asking once again, how does a relatively small streamer have 20 grand and security protection for a vanity trip to a war zone? Buddy doesn't have viewership or subs like that. Twitch takes half the bag. Plus DC Metro expensive from what I heard. So Dylan, where'd you get that money? State funding by CIA. They have trillions to spare. What the fuck? Security? Isn't he like 21? Who lives in DC, by the way? What? What? Damn. Hope he doesn't make it out. Hope he keeps his phone on at all times. Savage. Man, these people really don't like me, huh? Maybe he finally got hired by... I know that's not the slur and it's like a socialist term, but I don't even want to risk it. His whole career in internet debate land has appeared like a conscious audition for being paid to do disinformation. $3 from Yo-Yo. Please Dylan cover the World War Woke by PGW. I might be able to. For U.S. imperialism, like, there's no way he believes his own positions. He is too informed and intelligent. This is a, this feels like a compliment, but in like a very...
Guys, Dylan got his money from DGG.
True, thank you for the $5. That's a really weird backhanded compliment. Dylan's too smart. He's too intelligent to be saying these things. There's no way he believes it. He's an agent of BS. Shitlibs are funded by the NED, that stands for National Endowment for Democracy, to pull would-be leftists into the DNC. Okay, so these are just some of the most interesting ones that I put. There are others. Let me get through these ones first, because I have a back and forth with this one guy that I really want to show that like, some of these people I assume are memeing. A lot of them aren't, but I want to show you how exactly far some people are not memeing, because I had a back and forth with one of these people, right? So first off, I am asking, how does a relatively small streamer have 20 grand? Okay, so I don't know, like 1K average, I guess for some that's small. I would call that mid-size. It doesn't really matter whether it is or not. The point is, I have Twitch income, I have direct donations, I have Patreon, even though I'm just starting it up, but it's starting to gain a little bit of ground. Not a lot though. It's just like $300 a month. I got sponsorships and I got YouTube ad revenue. I also do work as a political consultant. That's also not the only work I've done. I've done other jobs as well, and I've done them over the last year in this dinky, terrible, horrible apartment that I've complained about to no end. And for 2 of those months, somebody was splitting the rent with me. I budgeted. I saved money thinking that maybe one day I could have a project, right? And then recently, my stream exploded with the conflict in Ukraine, and I've made a lot of money. And to be completely honest, I feel kind of weird about it. And I haven't talked about this before, really, in depth, but I feel weird about the amount of money I've made from the conflict of Ukraine. During the early days of the conflict, after a certain amount of raids, I made $4,000 in one day. That is an asinine amount of money. That is an amount of money, which of course it's cool to just get $4,000 in one day. To be clear, that was an outlier, okay? That's an outlier. Most of them is not that much. We're talking, most streams is not nearly that much. It was just a really, really, really good day. But whoa, that's a lot of money to just be dropping into my lap out of nowhere. And it's weird to be making that money when I'm showing footage of tanks being blown up on stream, artillery slamming into homes in Kharkiv and Chernihiv and Sumy and Mariupol and rockets hitting Kiev and all this stuff. Now bombardments even as far into the west as Lviv. It feels weird to be like, oh my god, Chernihiv is under bombardment, 20 civilians dead. Hey, Sexy69, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. I appreciate that with the $20 dono. Pogorino, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Anyway, back to the death and destruction. It feels weird. It feels weird. It does. I'm gonna be for real. It does feel weird. It feels wrong to some degree. Now, at the end of the day, it is the people's decision. They're all consenting adults, I assume, or children who stole their mom's credit card. And if that's the case, sorry, mom, good cause. And they've decided to give me the money. I can't control that, and I need money to feed myself. So I shouldn't feel bad about it, I guess. And at the end of the day, these mainstream news outlets like CNN, MSNBC, they do the same thing. They just do it with advertisers. They cut from footage of war and conquest and slaughter to Buffalo Wild Wings ad talking about the new special for the extra saucy and spicy Cajun wings, right? They do it. They just do it in a different way, right? So I guess I shouldn't, but at the end of the day, it still feels weird. And so, since a lot of money has fallen into my lap and I've budgeted, I think, quite well, and I have some more money to spare, I've decided that I'm going to take the money people have given me, because they enjoyed or respected my coverage to some extent, and I'm going to use it to try to improve my coverage from Poland. That's what I'm trying to do. It's not that crazy that I can spend that amount of money, considering the recent huge jump in viewership I've had on Twitch, and considering that I have some financial competence, I guess. And I will say he's using the 20 grand number when the rage I gave was 10 to 20 grand. But saying 20 grand makes it sound like a lot more than the 10 to 20 grand range, with 20 being the largest amount if I stay for a longer period of time. That's like 20, 21, 22 grand. That's if I stay 3 months, which is most likely not going to happen. I just wanted to give people, when I said that number, the full range of the amount of money. But yes, I'm paying for the trip completely out of pocket. I've come about money with this conflict. I feel weird with the amount of money that I've gotten from covering this conflict. So instead of just spending it on cigars or whatever, I want to spend it to see if I can improve my coverage and give a platform to people who have been directly affected by the war. That's what I want to do. It's not that crazy, okay? You don't know my personal financial situation? You don't know how much money I've made recently? You have no clue. It's not that crazy. And security protection. Okay, let me be clear. I said I would do everything safe. I am not gonna have armed guard, okay? I am not going to have armed guards in Poland. You wanna know who my armed guard is? You wanna know who it is? One second. Let's see if I can find the tweet. I wanna see if I can find the tweet. My armed guard. It's ridiculous, man. Where is it? Here it is. Here's my armed guard. That's my editor, Mr. Geek. That's who's going with me, okay? So there's my armed guard, okay? My warrior who's going to fight for me in a sticky situation, okay? My armed Frenchman. I don't have an armed guard. I don't have security detail, okay? I don't. That's why, again, I'm not going to the front. I'm going, if I can safely, again, it's not a sure thing, into Lviv. Good point in chat. I could hire Will Smith, okay? So, weird that, like, security protection for a vanity trip into a war zone. So, this is something that I find interesting, and then we can, like, move on, because all these criticisms are, like, the same. Vanity trip to a war zone. This actually, I think, ties into the second half of the criticism that I've gotten. That's a little less insane that I want to talk about. So maybe I'm going to delay that for now. Let's continue about this $20,000 though. Buddy doesn't have viewership or subs like that, which takes half the bag. I don't know, 1K on average. When I have 1,000 people in a room and I'm like, hey guys, sub and donate. By the way, chat, you have an Amazon Prime? Connect it to your Twitch Prime. Doesn't cost you anything. Supports me. Like any direct donations you could send my way, really appreciate it. Any subs you can drop my way. Say that in front of 1,000 people, some people are going to reciprocate. And Twitch isn't my only income. I've diversified my portfolio, so to speak, and work another job. It's not that crazy, man. Plus, DC Metro expensive. What? Okay, I live outside of DC. I do not travel inside DC. I mean, it is expensive, but it's like $5 to $6 expensive. It's not like $50 to $60 expensive, right? And I don't travel into DC every day. I live outside DC. I travel into DC if I have a meeting in DC or I want to get lunch at a food truck, okay? Why bring up the DC Metro? I thought you lived in Maryland. I do. I live outside DC in Maryland. I live in the DMV, which covers DC, Maryland, and Virginia, covered by the Metro system. So Dylan, where'd you get that money? State funding by the CIA. They have trillions to spare. Security. By the way, who lives in DC? Like 800,000 people. A lot of people just see DC as like, oh, it's people talk about DC like it's trash, man. It's disgusting. Oh, it's a corruption capital of the world. People live in the city, man. People live there. They make it their home. My mom was a homeless resident of DC until she died. It's a beautiful city, man. Like, yeah, people live there. These people are so disconnected. Like, what, DC? That's the center of corruption and Western imperialism. No, good things are in DC. And then you just look around and there's just a bunch of people walking to the, like put up their food truck or run their local dispensary or just run their local business like a bookshop. My God. But if you look at this, there's either, of course, people wishing death upon me or like confused on how I got this money. And trust me, this person ended up deleting their tweet because they admitted they were wrong. But there's like a back and forth I have with this people for a while, who like going back and forth on how I got this 20K, how fishy it is I got this money, etc. Who knows who's backed my money? Is it really that?
Some of my Twitch dollars for some beers in Poland.
Thank you so much for the $10 for my illicit substances in Poland. I appreciate that, ZA. Thank you. Let me just be clear. What are you gonna believe? that recently, due to my Ukraine coverage, I've made a lot more money. And so instead of just keeping that money, I want to reinvest it into my coverage and try to platform people who are refugees. And I've saved money over the last year. Or that there's a dark secret money group that there's no evidence of but totally exists, like the CIA, the National Endowment for Democracy, or something that's backing me and giving me $20,000 so I can go film the least glamorous part of war, which is covering the diaspora that develops after a conflict starts. If you look at the viewership, like we talked about earlier, on refugee interviews, it's not exactly popping off. I'm gonna be honest. What do you think's more likely? I would say the former is more likely. It's not like any of them have evidence that I've taken money from them. They just believe it. And you want to know why they believe it? And I'm about to get really, this might be insulting, but I'm gonna be for real. Exactly, that'd be crazy. Not the CIA. Thank you for the 350, not the CIA. Thank you for not being the CIA. I'm gonna be for real with you for a second. These people are conceited. They believe that they're so important. These people who either support the Russian invasion or hate the idea of supporting Ukraine, etc. They're so conceited, not this one individual in particular, at least they walked it back. They're so conceited that they believe the world is working against them to push narratives against them. And that the reason, like these other streamers, that's not their favorite streamer, that isn't pushing their talking points, is able to spend this money on this project that they are passionate about, is because the CIA must be involved. It can't be that this person just, I guess, is invested in the issue. It can't be that this person just saved money and made some money and now wants to spend it in this manner. It's dark secret money group, CIA, National Endowment for Democracy, some dark group. It must be that. The whole world is conspiring against them and their viewpoint constantly, and everyone who disagrees with them has the whole world and the most powerful intelligence organizations against them to stop them. This is the same thing that Infrared believes, by the way. Infrared's like, Dylan is so lacking of charisma that he must be backed by dark money groups. This is an unironic Infrared position. Can we pull up the position? Well,
you make a mockery of yourself.
It's how we work, man. I'm a lying snake in the grass. I'm a liar.
That's exactly what you fucking are.
Amen.
Yeah, Dylan, guess what?
Didn't you say I have Fed ties?
Hey, Dylan, I don't give a fuck who you work for, by the way.
Didn't you accuse me of having Fed ties to the federal government in some way? Like, what were those? Like CIA ties or something?
Yeah, don't worry about it, Dylan. The people you work for, I don't give a fuck.
Give me evidence that I work for any feds or anything.
I don't get I'm not gonna have to give you shit, Dylan.
You don't. But I mean, like, I'm like a CIA agent, man. You should be worried. What knows what's gonna happen?
I didn't say CIA.
Then what is it? Then who is it?
Mr. Gravel.
Then who is it? Who is it then? Who?
Don't worry, Dylan.
Who is it?
Your credentials are of public record.
I know they are. So where is it?
You are.
So where is it?
You are.
So what feds?
Don't worry about it, Dylan. We know who you're involved with.
But you just said it's public info. Just say it.
Dylan, we know who set you up in this whole fucking thing.
Who?
Yeah, who?
Say it then.
Who?
Say it.
Who?
Don't
worry about it, Dylan.
Haas makes a lot of ambiguous
sometimes you can't reveal information without giving away the source. Sometimes you can't reveal information without giving away the source.
Is it George
also,
Soros?
Dylan, you made a lot of allegations about me. You said you were protecting the identities of people who knew me and that they knew the real me, but you wanted to protect your identities. You want to talk about them?
What? I still don't know what he meant by that. Anyway, maybe he can send me the clip. I really don't remember. But, I don't know if I was gaslighting him or what it was. But, anyway, so it seems to be a genuine belief, right? I don't think he has shit. I would even put money on it that he doesn't have anything, okay? Because I haven't worked for the feds. I have no tie to the federal government. It's that the idea that the world is always constantly working against them, everything's a conspiracy against them. They're just self-centered. They just believe that the whole world at once is working against them, and they are the warriors fighting against the system, and that everything's a conspiracy. If anybody calls them a cuck, if anybody calls them like a loser on Twitter, if anybody like ratios them, maybe it's the CIA, maybe it's the feds, and the whole world's it's so conceited. The idea that there could just be people in the world who just generally disagree with you, that just believe that you're wrong and have a different viewpoint, no. It must be that there's some shadowy, snaky forces out there stopping you. It must be. It must be that. Who knows? Who knows what evil ties I have? Who knows what disgusting ties I have? Will they ever show the evidence? Will Haas ever show me the evidence? Who knows? Don't forget to come to the briefing before you leave. Don't worry, I'll go. It's the room, the tunnels under DC, right? Yeah, we know the place. Okay, we'll meet up. We'll get like a sub or something. Thanks for telling me, Supreme. Who knows? But I just this worldview is based upon, I think, just being like deep in the conspiracy hole and just always feeling like everyone's out to get you. It's conceited, it's self-centered, and I think they just need to, I don't know, smoke a joint and relax. That not everybody that disagrees with you on the internet is backed by some big shadowy groups. You can just believe I'm stupid. You can just believe I'm wrong. You can believe whatever you want about my opinions. But my God, man, isn't it cope? Isn't it cope to think that it must be some big shadowy organizations that funded it, instead that, hey, I saved money and now I'm spending it on this trip? But Dylan Burns TV, the connection to the Fens is how we met up. That is true. We met up on Epstein's Island. I forgot about that. Anyway, so that's the first thing. There are a genuine group of people who think that I'm backed by the feds, and my response to you is, you're insane. You need to be put in a psych ward. Trust me, I understand what those are like. Please, take some time away. I don't know, take some Adderall, whatever floats your boat, to let you relax and realize the world doesn't revolve around you, and not everyone's out to get you. There's no one in your walls, okay? That's the first thing. Okay, now that we're done with that, let's get to the second criticism, right? And this isn't, there's a few people echoing this, a smaller amount, but I wanted to cover this too. And this is somebody on Twitter, Feline Father. I assume they are the father of a feline. I know that because their cat watches my channel. They try to stop their cat from watching my channel, but their cat's a huge fan, unironically. A huge shill for the Ukrainian government, just like me. For fuck's sake, just give the money, and this is like all my posts about going to Poland. Just give the money you would spend on the trip to reputable journalists. This is not journalism. This is tourism. I hope he's compensating the people he will be interviewing. Okay. So, let me just say, here's my response. No. One second. I think somebody might have missed it. Let me say it a second time. No. One more time for the people in the back. No. Now let me expand on why. I'm not just taking a bunch of money and throwing it somewhere, right? The reason I made the majority of the money that I'm spending on this trip is because of my Ukraine coverage. Because people saw my Ukraine coverage, they saw how I approached the conflict, and they saw other people on the platform who were approaching the conflict in different ways. I'm not pointing out anyone in particular. And they thought mine was of a certain quality, deserving of their hard-earned cash. And so, I went to take that money, for which they donated because they thought I was doing a decent job, and use it to hopefully do an even better job by investing in something that I care a lot about, which is the plight of people who are displaced. And hopefully, those people, I can give a platform. And let me be clear, I think a lot of people are like expecting me to like Logan Paul it up. Like, I'm gonna go out to, like, the border, and I'm just gonna be like, yo, everybody, I'm on the border. Let's go talk to the orphans. Ah, how's it going, little boy? What's it like losing Momo to the bombs? Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not insane. I'm not a psychopath. I got a few screws loose, but I'm not that crazy. Most, if not, the vast majority of the interviews I'm gonna do is going to be sit-down, pre-scheduled interviews. At least this is what's going to be the case in Poland. In Lviv, it depends on, like, the situation on the ground. If we go into Lviv, that's a big if. It's going to be sit-down interviews that we scheduled in advance where the people coming into the interview understands what they're walking into. This is some of the most difficult periods of time for these people. These are people losing everything. They could lose their house, they lose family members, they lose all their money, they have to get up and leave the country with no idea really when they're going to be able to go back to Ukraine if they ever can. An extremely difficult period of time in their life. I do not just want to be some Lego-headed streamer with a camera just walking up to them saying, so what you think of Putin? You ever heard of what a tanky is? No, that's ridiculous. Of course I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that the people in question know what they're getting into beforehand, either by having a conversation or having somebody that I'm there with, having a conversation with them like, hey, this is what we want to do. Are you interested? Are you willing to appear on camera? Etc., etc. We want to do this in a responsible manner. That's also why we want to have a translator, somebody who can translate what we're saying, the questions, in accurate Russian or Ukrainian, depending on the interviewee, and then translate their answers back to me so I have a record of them. This is the same reason why I'm investing in a ton of camera equipment. I'm investing in a ton of audio equipment. I'm even trying to get my hands on a second DSLR so we can have like really good like video shots of this. That's what I want to do. Right? I'm going to be honest. The type of interviews like that I'm interested in, these longer form interviews, I want to do that, number one, for my own community. If I just give money to other people and then say, hey, everybody, go watch them, maybe 5% of my audience might go watch them. If it was 10%, that'd be a massive number. But the majority of my audience won't. I know this because I've recommended articles and journals and streamers and YouTubers and interviews and videos to my chat, to my community before. And you want to know what happened? The vast majority of them didn't go. Because for whatever reason, I don't know why, the 60,000 people who are subbed to my channel on YouTube and the 50,000 followers on my Twitch are interested in my take on it or me interacting with this stuff. Maybe it's parasocial. Maybe they like how I ask questions. Who knows what it really is? But for some reason, they're interested in how I approach it. And so that's the first thing. And those are the same people who gave me the money in the first place. So I'm trying to reinvest into the project, into the thing we're doing, this coverage of the war, of the invasion, that they gave us the money for in the first place because they liked that coverage. So that's the first thing. That's one reason why I'm doing it myself and I'm not just giving it to reputable journalists. Number two, I want to do something that's a little different than what the majority of people I see on the ground are doing. Again, I've already talked about this, but if you look up Ukrainian refugee, I already looked it up. Ukrainian refugee interview, it's 3 minutes. 11 minutes is you're lucky. That's why I already watched this one because I wanted to see how that went. 6 minutes, 14 minutes, but it's a collage of interviews, but this is a good video. 4 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. This isn't even an interview. This has Zelensky. 4 minutes. Again, not an interview. 5-minute video. And most of these are like getting like terrible views. Like we're talking MSNBC's major news outlets. 47, and this is about a Hungarian couple. Not even necessarily just refugees. 682 views. 17k views. 10k views. Compare that to the interview with Zelensky, 170k views. The best one was probably this video. And I'm happy this video got so much attention. And so I feel like people aren't listening to refugees as much as they should be. And I feel like we need to be pumping out more videos of interviews of refugees so they can explain the experience they're dealing with. Oh, I'm sorry, my cam's still over here. Not only that, but the type of interviews I'm doing are not 3-minute interviews. I think some of them will end up being like that just due to time constraints, or if I meet somebody out in the field that wants to speak to a camera. But the interviews I'm really interested in doing are like these. I don't know if you've ever watched this channel. Very, very good channel. 28-minute interviews. And look at this interview. Look what it's like.
I found this app through Craigslist that does gigs, and you just pick a shift and you pick time and how much you get paid and you sign up. And so I started working at this warehouse, and it's pretty easy. Over time I've took on more responsibility, and they've made me like shift lead and stuff, and it's all right. It's not.
But you'd consider yourself a good employee?
Oh, yeah, man. It's frustrating because like most of these people, 90% of these people could give a shit. But that's what is the problem with these gig apps. I mean, there's multiple problems, but.
So this is a 28-minute video about somebody who's a functional heroin addict. And this video, you don't only just ask them about heroin. You also ask them about their personal life, and then you see how those two things intersect. And you want to know what? That takes time. Time that mainstream news outlets are not giving. Because what is one Ukrainian refugee to a news outlet? That's not a story. There's 4 million people who have fled the country. 4 million. One Ukrainian refugee isn't a story to them. It's just a statistic. It's sound bites. Exactly. Sound bites, not stories. Exactly. And I don't want to do that. When I post stuff on Twitter, I don't got any option. I'm limited by 2 minutes and 20 seconds, right? But YouTube, if I wanted to do a 3-hour interview, I can. I just had a 1-hour interview with a Ukrainian streamer that I'm going to upload, I believe, at some point on my channel. That's what I want to do. And I don't see anything like this for people who are fleeing the conflict. And I would like to do that. I don't want to force that on anyone. I'm not going to run up to random people and bother them in the most difficult time of their life. I want to schedule things in advance. Or if we do see somebody that we think we might be interested in interviewing, we want to get their consent beforehand. We want to make sure that these people want to be included. That's what I'm interested in. These first-person perspectives, where these people can describe what they saw in almost like a gonzo journalism way, you know? That's like my vision for this project. Is that how it's going to turn out? Maybe so, maybe not. Maybe we'll sit down and we'll try this and it won't work and I'll be out of $20,000, possibly at the maximum, right? And you want to know what? That sucks for me. Because that means I'm out of content. That means my channel's going to suffer because I've got less things to post while I've already paid to do this massive trip. That means I've paid for translators for nothing. That means I've done all this stuff for nothing. But that's just what it is. I'm taking a risk here. I'm taking a massive risk here. But no, I want to do my interviews my way. That's what I'm interested in. That's what I want to do. Will you be uploading a few minute segments or videos with a collection of interviews? I want to diversify it. I want to like have one big video where I have a lot of the most interesting parts of the interviews together. I want to have independent interviews like this where we talk about like talk to people who are interesting and like describe their experience fleeing the conflict or how the conflict has affected them. I want to see what we can make work. And maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe it does. Who knows? Maybe I get there and I find out this model that I'm proposing doesn't work that well, and I have to change course and figure out another way to do this. But there's a reason why I want to do it myself. And there's a third reason, and I'm going to be honest. I want to get directly involved. I want to get directly involved with my own hands through a means that I feel passionate about, which is content and video creation. And I want to get directly involved. And I have gotten very emotionally invested, and I would like to get involved with my own hands. There's a lot of ways I could, maybe soup kitchens, maybe helping with refugees directly, but through my work is what I'm the most passionate about, and that's how I would like to have that impact. And so that's my explainer. But for other people, this is tourism. And let me just say, to a degree, he's not even wrong. Because after I'm out of Kiev, not go to Kiev. After I'm out of Ukraine, if I go in, I might go to the Netherlands. I might go explore Europe once this is all over. It's my money. I'm spending it. This isn't like some scandal where I've raised $20,000 from my community and now I'm going to go spend it on hookers and blow throughout Europe on a crazy gonzo binge, right? That's not what's happening. I have a project I'm interested in doing, and afterwards, maybe I'll get the time to relax. But I don't even know if I will, because I want to go to Hungary, and I want to talk about the Hungarian elections, the fallout of the elections that are happening on April 3rd. I want to go to Germany, maybe see if I could talk to Dan Arrows. See if I can maybe get more stories from the conflict in Poland. Who knows? There's a range of European conflict. Hey, I could go to Spain, talk about Catalonia. Who knows? But that's also why I'm paying for it out of my own pocket. Because I don't want anybody else to be covering that. If that's what ends up happening. Or if this whole thing flops and I'm just like, well, I guess I'm in Europe now. And it is what it is. But, dude, people are getting spiteful on this. Listen to this. But then how's he supposed to profit off of the suffering of others? Gotta make sure they like and follow and sub while he's out there interviewing refugees. Can I ask my chat right now? Have I fundraised? Have I have I been fundraising off of this? Have I been like, hey guys, sub and donate, I'm etc. Have I been doing that? No. I'm going to be honest, I haven't. I haven't talked about this project really until like 1 week ago. I dropped it. Somebody steps in. I dropped this on you guys. I just dropped it out of nowhere. I was like, hey guys, I bought the ticket. We've rented out the hostel. I've dumped all this money into it. I'm doing it. I've paid for it out of pocket. The costs are covered. If at one point you see what I'm doing while I'm there, this is what I keep saying. If you want to donate right now, perfectly fine. If you have that faith in me, thank you. I appreciate that level of trust, okay? I don't know if I deserve that level of trust, but I appreciate that level of trust. But what I want people to do is they see what I'm doing in Europe, and if they like it, then they donate. Then they sub. Then they maybe help me recuperate that cost, but I'm going to be for real. I don't think I'm going to recuperate the costs, okay? I don't. I'm spending a lot of money here. I'm spending a lot of money, and this is all why I still have other bills to pay. Still in the States. Even if I'm leaving this apartment, there's still other things to pay for. I still gotta pay for the storage unit that's gonna be holding my stuff. I still gotta pay for renting all these other things that I'm gonna be using while I'm over there. I'm not making a big profit off of this. And you wanna know what's really I find this comment insulting for one big reason. This is actually the biggest reason it's insulting for me, and it's not the reason you think. If there's one thing I'm proud of, it's my marketing ability. I feel I could market anything. I love shooting promos for the Hippy Dippy Championship. I love putting out promo material. I feel like in another life, I would have been a marketer. I would have been a marketing strategist. I find marketing so interesting. Like, how do you get people hooked? How do you bring people in? How do you sell something to somebody? That stuff's super interesting to me. And I've gotten interested in that through wrestling promos, through watching people promote events. It's super interesting to me. Promotion is a super interesting thing. I've also seen it through boxing because I'm a huge fan of boxing. Well, I used to be a much bigger fan, but I still watch on occasion. And I'm telling you, if I wanted to grift this and make every dime I could, there's so many things I would change. The first thing is, I wouldn't be paying for this out of pocket. I would have done some big fundraiser. I would have pulled some strings like, hey Vosh, hey Destiny, hey whoever, hey this, hey that, hey Adam something. Hey, I'm gonna be doing this fundraiser stream so I can go to Poland and interview refugees. And number one, it wouldn't just be refugees. I'd be going to Kiev. I'd be going to Kiev, right? Now, maybe if the war calms down, maybe I will, but I highly doubt it. I'd be going to Kiev. I'd be going where there's the most action, where the most viewers will want to turn in. Sitting down with the refugee, that shit's boring. That's boring. Kiev, the capital that stood strong against Russian aggression, that's more interesting. Going the extra mile to actually maybe pay for protection, get the helmet, get the body armor, going in there, that would make me a pretty penny. That could make me a pretty penny. I would be advertising this event a month in advance. I wouldn't be just dropping this out of nowhere. Marketing is something I'm super interested in. And so, what I find most assaulting about this tweet is they think that this is the best I could grift, because I could grift so much better if I was grifting. My God. I'd be shouting out Surfshark VPN from Kiev. Today's resistance stream. Kiev calling, Kiev calling. We're calling from the headquarters of the resistance. I could lean totally into it. There's enough people with Ukrainian flags and their Twitter handles, right? That would eat that shit up. So dropping this shit out of nowhere, where I'm paying for it out of pocket, I just don't see the angle. Whatever, man. I mean, maybe you could say long-term, maybe. But I don't see the angle. Then this thing, actually, this pissed me off because this person's just not trying. This is just conflict tourism. The guy is in college right now. Who gives a fuck? And just wants to spend like 20K to just see the front lines. I explicitly said on multiple occasions, I am not going to the front lines. I'm not going to the front lines. I am not going to die. Right? I don't have the experience to do that. Definitely when you talk about levels of risk that you would need to engage in to do that. Okay? If he really wanted to help the Ukrainians, he would just drop 10K and then stay in Warsaw working in soup kitchen for refugees. You can help in other ways. You can help in ways that lean into skill sets you've developed. You can help in ways that are more enjoyable to you. I've worked in soup kitchens before, and you want to know what? I'll still do it again in the future, but it is a dreadful experience. You want to know why? Because I hate cooking so much. And I'm not a huge... I love eating food. Having to manage food, I'm the worst person in the world you could ask to do that. By me touching the food, I will cause a mass cholera outbreak in Poland and be the worst disaster to touch the Ukrainian people since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Just by me being in the same presence of the food, because I am so terrible with cooking. I won't even be involved in the cooking process. I just pick up the tray, food's ruined, it's all poisoned. I will be poisoning more people through that than Vladimir Putin does. But I never said I was going to the front lines. And so I say, this is terribly bad faith, and also displays how I don't think you ever read the original post. Come on. Now, this is the only person I think that actually made a decent point. I hope training in trauma and trauma victims, or at least some journalism background, to think you are at all responsible enough to handle this. Otherwise, it's just trauma exploitation. This is nonsense. But I do think possibly having somebody in the room that has experience with like mental health stuff could be viable. Could be something that I might want to include in the budget. That's going to cost a lot more money though, and I don't know if I can cover that. But on the other hand, this is making me think about like how more to prepare for the interview. Saying to the person like, hey, like if you want to end this interview at any point, just give me a signal. We'll end the interview in an instant. If you need to take a step back, take a rest. We have waters, Gatorades, little cookies, right? You can take that break. You can take that break. You can find resources on trauma-based interactions and interviewing online. Well, I might read those resources on my way to Buffalo, New York, where I have to pick up my expedited passport. Anyway, that's the only one that I think had some, like, relevance. Then I respond to this saying it's bad faith because of the conflict journalism. I'm going to go to the front lines. But again, I never said I was going to. Then this guy decides to wring his head around and listen to this. Bad faith. The only time I've seen you do any reporting, you exploited someone's sexual harassment allegations by leveraging your power as her landlord, SO. Can somebody please explain to me what this is? Significant other, I think. Boss, profiteered off of the coverage, fucked it all up, and ended up having to walk everything back. This ain't it, King. Okay. And then I realized it. He just doesn't like me. That's it. He just doesn't like me. Now, the first things first. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. To a certain degree. It depends on how you say it. Like, profiteered off the coverage says it like it was a successful profiteer. Like, let's assuming that my goal was to profiteer. I didn't make any money off that shit. I'm telling you that right now, okay? And you can ask Doobie. Doobie said I made like $2,000 off of it. I provided him the receipts, and he retracted that claim later that I did not make some money off of that experience. If anything, I lost money at the end of the day. Doesn't really matter. But I don't know how I leveraged my power as a landlord. Number one, I don't, like, how did I leverage the power? Number one, we just, like, split rent, right? This makes it think like I'm, like, the landlord, like, coming in to collect the dues and get me the money or you're out on the street, right? I didn't leverage. Number one, the weird way to, like, classify it. But number two, I didn't leverage the power. Number two, I was never her boss. I don't know where this comes from. I think this comes from the fact that she booked 2 panels or maybe possibly 3 as a favor. And it was unpaid. It was just a favor. I don't know how I would leverage her doing me a favor against her. Whatever. And I don't know how, and even if I could, I don't know how I did that. Anyway, all that aside, like, he could have just said the Cat Prime stuff, and that would have been enough. He didn't need, but he somehow got into the details and got like half of it wrong. But also, this is completely unrelated. This has nothing to do with Poland. Literally nothing. Actually, like, physically, I could not figure out how I could connect in my mind Ukrainian refugees and the Cat Prime drama. How do you connect these two? How are these two things related? You just wanted an opportunity to try to dunk on me for this. Months after the fact. Almost, I don't know, it's been like 7-8 months now, I think. Maybe 9. Is Cat Ukrainian? Not to my knowledge. And he goes on to say it speaks to character. There's always a risk when reporting on events that it can become exploitative. But real talk, I don't trust you to not fuck this up. You're going to generate clout. I don't know if he's saying you are going to generate clout. I don't know if he's saying, like, I'm going to, which, I mean, if that happens, it happens. Like, you can't hate me if I do an interview, it goes well, and then I get views. Like, then tough shit. You're going to generate clout. I think he's trying to say, I'm doing this for attention, right? Which, if that was the case, I could have gone about this in a much better manner. Just saying. But at the end of the day, like, it's just like my word against his for what's in my mind. I can use context clues like, why didn't I promote this months in advance? Or like a month in advance, or like while I was preparing. Why did I pay for this out of pocket and not fundraise for it? Why am I not doing what would get me the most money and most attention, which would be going to Kiev or something like that, or going to the front lines? If you wanted to help, there are 100 better ways. There's a ton of different ways to help. I'm helping in my own unique way. You're going to hurt rather than help. He has no fucking clue. He could just wait and watch, man. That's the thing. If you think it's gonna go bad, just wait and watch. And here's the last thing I'll comment on. What makes you think you are in any way qualified to do this? So this is a person who I know has done the panel circuit, and this is liked by the other person in question, right? Boom, 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 pow, all of them. These people run the panel circuit. Let's get really serious for a moment, okay? Nobody on Twitch who's talked about this conflict at any point is what you would say classically qualified to talk about it. Is Hassan Ukrainian? Is Hassan a conflict journalist? Is Hassan an expert on Ukraine? What about Stardust? Destiny? Me? Anyone who's talked about this conflict or hosted conversations about this conflict? The entirety of political Twitch, if you added, you have to have qualifications, professional qualifications to talk what you're talking about, the whole platform would collapse. Every single person in political Twitch would immediately not be able to stream. Everyone. Irrelevant, Stardust, Chud Logic, me, Destiny. Well, he got it in the other way. Bosch, he got it another way too. Everyone. Every single person. I do not claim credentials. I do not claim qualifications that I do not have. I make it relevant to everybody what I do know, what I don't know, and what experience I have. I'm trying to say at the start of every Hippy Dippy that everybody who's talking about these issues are not experts, get information from other sources. But I'm trying to go directly to said sources. But no, I don't think anyone under this definition of, under this argument is qualified, period, to be talking about it. Political Twitch shouldn't exist under this framework. But it does. Because we do the best we can. We're supposed to somewhat be this idea of we're everyday people talking about political issues. And let me say about this idea of profiteering off of this. Was it profiteering when every single person in political Twitch had their background on their stream as a live cam from Kiev? You know what I'm talking about. Kiev Live. These. And the first few days of this conflict, everybody was sitting here in front of their live cams, waiting, just sitting here and waiting for something. Sounds of explosions, visual explosions. And when anything happened, boom, they'd move their camera about, make sure they're not covering it. Like, whoa, what was that? Has anybody got tweets about it? Anybody know what it is? Anybody know what happened? All of a sudden, a lot of people cared about Ukraine, huh? Was that exploitative? This is probably the last time I'm going to talk about this because I want to focus on the project moving forward. If the person, any of the people in question that I just criticized want to talk to me directly about this, I give you an open stage. Today, tomorrow, even Friday, come to me and talk about it. Tell me why I'm wrong and why this is a clout chasing move